My sister-in-law plans a wedding at my house, and I'm not invited, but on her wedding day. The princess is surprised to see that I changed the locks and there will be no wedding. I'm 34 years old and I've been following this sub for a long time. Lately, there's something in my life that I needed an opinion on. I've read many posts about sisters-in-law to see if anyone else has gone through my situation and how they handled it. Well, I guess my situation is unique and I would need some advice about it. It's about my sister-in-law. That's the reason. I can't discuss this with my husband, you know the family complexities. So here's the thing. My 27-year-old sister-in-law is planning a wedding for spring. She wants to organize it at my house. Yes, that's right. Not to brag, but I have a 4-bedroom house with a pool and a large garden. She's engaged to an Irish guy, so his family and relatives would need a place to stay when they come to the wedding. We have a quite spacious living room and a large garden outside. She plans an outdoor wedding in the garden, followed by dinner in the living room. That's how she wants it to be. Now, the obvious question is, am I okay with this? Well, I don't know. That's why I'm here seeking advice. Let me give you some context. I've been married to my husband for 8 years. We met in college and dated for 4 or 5 years before getting married. He doesn't come from a wealthy family, but he's a hardworking and self-taught man. My father-in-law worked as a day laborer, and my mother-in-law did occasional jobs. My husband has a younger sister who has been living with my in-laws. Keep in mind she's 27 years old and still doesn't work. Not only do they provide her with food and shelter, but they also cater to her extravagant demands. And when I say extravagant, I mean beyond their means. Unlike my husband, who completed his master's degree, my sister-in-law dropped out of college. Her parents didn't even insist that she finish college because she didn't need to be told anything. She's inspired by this new age influencer who says that a degree doesn't make you rich or successful. I find it strange because I was raised completely the opposite way. Although my parents are quite wealthy, they never gave us privileges. Yes, we went to a private school, call it luxury or whatever you want. But beyond that, my parents did nothing for my career. When my brother and I were in high school, Dad told us to earn a scholarship or take out a student loan. He wasn't going to pay for our university. We used to hate him and thought our dad was stingy. We studied hard and got scholarships. Now that I'm older, I realize the wisdom of his upbringing. It made us self-sufficient. Especially after seeing my sister-in-law, I'm convinced of how important the role of parents is in a person's life. When I got my first job right after college, I went crazy partying and vacationing, but Dad sat me down and showed me some good properties. I was happy that he was finally letting go of some money from his sticky hands, but that wasn't the case. He wanted me to buy the house myself. He paid the down payment. He explained to me the importance of having my own house, and the sooner, the better. He advised me to rent half of it to get help with the mortgage. I own this house today, which makes me happy seeing housing prices now. I think if I hadn't bought it, I wouldn't have been able to get such a spacious property at this price. If I have to talk about my relationship with my in-laws, it's been more or less acceptable. We don't see each other that often. They live on the other side of town, and I lead a very busy life. I still have a decent bond with my mother-in-law. We talk once a week, but I just can't connect with my sister-in-law. I can't. We're at opposite poles. She doesn't like me because during our initial interactions, I tried to convince her to complete her education and get a job. She thinks I'm jealous of her because her parents take care of her while mine abandoned me to live on my own. The worst part is that my in-laws say they're going through financial difficulties but continue to feed their 27-year-old daughter. My husband and I offered to help her get an office job, but neither she nor my in-laws showed interest. She's a slacker, no doubt about it. But my in-laws should have pressured her to work, although they're happy to provide for her. There are a couple of reasons why my sister-in-law wants to get married at my house. One, of course, is space. She could have the wedding, lunch, and dinner in one place, and even her guests could stay without needing to book a hotel. Another reason is that she can't afford to rent a venue, and if it's not my house, she'd have to settle for a city hall wedding. She doesn't earn money, and my in-laws don't have a fortune to spend on her wedding. My husband doesn't want to give an opinion about it, because it's my house, and he wants me to make the decision regardless of what he thinks. That's my man, and that's why I love him so much. So my problem boils down to this. Do you think I should allow her to use my house as her wedding venue? Update. 1. The day after tomorrow is the wedding, and today I found out that I'm not invited. The funny part is that the wedding is at my house. Let me start from where I left off last time. Yes, I agreed to let her use my house for the wedding. I was definitely worried about it, but I eventually agreed. Now I regret my decision. I'm furious, so please excuse me if I'm just venting everything I feel. My sister-in-law is nothing but a woman who uses men for money in exchange for you-know-what? She's not even that pretty, and don't get me started on her lack of intelligence. But once the lights go out, most men don't care about all that. She might be good at what she offers, which is why she was able to hit the jackpot. That's what she calls her fiancé, the jackpot. Not only is she superficial, but also a liar. I found out that her Irish fiancé is quite well off financially. He works as a banker, and even his family is wealthy. So to impress them, she lied saying that my house was theirs. I already knew about this lie for a long time, but I didn't care because at the end of the day, it didn't affect me at all. When her fiancé proposed to her, she came to me and almost begged me to let her use my house for the wedding. As if this wasn't enough, my in-laws also came begging. They said if I didn't agree to this, they might have to take out a loan to finance her wedding. I told them why can't she and her fiancé finance it? My in-laws said traditionally it's the bride's parents who pay for the wedding, and the Irish follow this tradition more than we do. I don't know how true this is, so please don't judge me for it. These aren't my words. Also, my sister-in-law had already bragged to her fiancé and her father-in-law about her big house that can host a wedding. Her stupidity made me laugh. Said, "What if I don't allow the wedding at my house? I mean, I can do that, right? Don't you think she should have asked me first before committing this to her fiancé?" My in-laws nodded and asked me to safeguard their reputation. I told them I would, but they should have done a better job educating their daughter. You see, I don't sugarcoat my words, and maybe that's why they think I'm arrogant. They don't understand that I say this for their own good. You know what happened next? They came to my house until I agreed to this. At one point, I thought, it's a matter of 2 days, let's get this over with. And yes, some people asked me in the last post if she offered to pay rent. No. All this happened 3 months ago when I made the original post. Fast forward to 2 days ago, my sister-in-law arrived with my in-laws and 2 other men. I was at work. I saw this on the camera installed inside. They have motion sensors. I called her and asked what was happening. She said those guys were wedding designers. They were here for a site visit and to plan the wedding accordingly. I asked her to be careful with my things. She assured me she would. After paying off my mortgage last year, I got rid of the tenants who occupied my 2 upstairs rooms. I took time off work to prepare 2 rooms for them. I hired a cleaner to do the job. It's a huge house to clean everything. Myself. Today, my sister-in-law showed up at 6 a.m. while we were still sleeping. She was leaving for her bachelorette party in the next city. She was here to see if everything had been prepared adequately. She was happy to see that I had prepared 2 rooms for them and rented a larger dining table for tonight's dinner. Then she walks around the house saying, "Well, those 2 rooms are ready for my in-laws. Mom and Dad will take your room, and I'll take the room with the walk-in closet." Wow, I'm so excited to show them my big house with all these elegant things. I can't wait to see their amazed expressions when I give them the house tour. I was confused. I mean, where do we fit in? The rest of the conversation went like this. "Sorry, I'm confused. If your parents occupy our room, where do we go?" She answered. "Well, I don't know. You can go to your parents' house or maybe check into a hotel for 2 days. You both earn well. I'm sure you can afford it." To which I replied, "But why do we have to move out of our own house?" And with a mocking tone, she said, "Because for them, this is my parents' house, remember? And you can't live here. It would be very weird for a married brother and his wife to live with my parents." I felt dizzy after that conversation. Like, what the hell? So you're going to pretend this is your parents' house and you live here like a princess? I was already quite angry. I put on a serious face and asked, "So according to your fairy tale, where do we live? In case your in-laws ask, us? Oh, they won't. I mean, how would they? You won't be present here, right? And what about our things, our photographs?" "Who would know they're your things? I'll tell them everything is mine. The only problem is the photos in your hallway. We'll have to remove them before they arrive." I sighed and asked, "So even if I vacate the house to support your facade, we'd still see them at your wedding, right? What if they ask us then?" I asked this question sarcastically, but her answers left me stunned. No. There's a misunderstanding here. You're not going to attend the wedding or the family dinner at all?" I was like, "What the hell?" She continued, "I'm not sure how this happened, but I never invited you to the wedding. My parents sent you an invitation." I felt so stupid for talking to her. I screamed my husband's name, who was sleeping peacefully. I screamed so loud that he ran out. I screamed, "Did you know we weren't invited to the wedding?" It seemed like his body was awake, but his mind was still asleep. "Whose wedding?" "Oh yes, her wedding. We're not invited. I mean, why?" I said. "Your sister said she hadn't sent us the invitation, so how could we assume we're invited?" "Let me understand the situation. I really don't understand what's happening. Here." It took him a few minutes and some repetitions to understand what had just happened. He was horrified that we hadn't been invited to the wedding that would be held at our house. My sister-in-law said, "Well, if that bothers you so much, you can attend, and you can probably say your wife is sick and has to skip it." I asked her what her original reason was to justify our absence. The woman had the audacity to laugh in my face and said, "Oh, you won't believe it. I told them my parents have ostracized them because they're too toxic." I was like, "Wow, what more can I expect from you?" I angrily went into my room without saying anything. It was useless to waste time talking to her. My husband followed me and assured me that it was still my decision if I wanted to withdraw my consent. At that moment, I was too angry to think clearly. I need to calm down to make a rational decision. That's why I sat down to update here, thinking it might help. And it did help. I feel much lighter. But that doesn't mean I'm going to give in to the princess's demands. I don't know what to do now, but I'm definitely not going to leave my house to participate in her tale of lies. Whatever happens, I'll update this thread. You can count on me. Update to hello guys. Thanks for participating in my posts. Yes, everyone was right in saying that the spoiled princess lives in a world of illusions. First of all, let me answer some common questions from the comments. How can my sister-in-law access my house in my absence? After I agreed to let her use it for the wedding, I gave her the spare key. The front porch, living room, garden, and pool area are all covered with cameras, so I felt okay sharing the spare key. Second, how is it possible that my sister-in-law's fiancé believed her lies that the house was hers? Didn't he ever visit her at her place? I'm not sure. He's been dating her for less than a year. 2 weeks before the wedding, she brought him to my house for a tour while I was working. After writing that update that day, I discussed my thoughts with my husband. Although he was on my side saying it was my decision, he was worried that if I backed out, his sister's wedding would be canceled, and his parents' reputation would be ruined. I said, "Then let's talk to your parents." We went to their house. We told them about my sister-in-law's plan to exclude us from the wedding. Apparently, they already knew, and it seemed they were okay with it. My husband lost his composure and said, "Did you know she was excluding us from her wedding, and you were okay with it?" My mother-in-law responded in a weak voice, "We thought you were okay with it too. Neither of you asked us why she hadn't sent you the invitation." At this point, I questioned whether we were wrong to assume we were invited to the wedding because it was my house. My husband and I looked at each other in shock. My husband yelled at them, "Do you realize there will be no wedding if she retracts her decision? What if we tell the truth to her in-laws?" My mother-in-law panicked and begged us not to do such a thing. My father-in-law intervened and kindly asked me if it would be okay to attend the wedding if my sister-in-law sent us the invitation now. I remained silent and didn't respond because I was furious. My father-in-law asked my mother-in-law to call my sister-in-law and ask her to send us the invitation immediately and apologize to us. My mother-in-law hesitated to call her, but my father-in-law looked at her with red eyes. My mother-in-law called tremblingly. My father-in-law told her to put the phone on speaker. My sister-in-law answered the call and scolded my mother-in-law for bothering her during her spa session. My mother-in-law told her it was urgent and that my father-in-law wanted her to invite my husband and me to the wedding. She got angry and said, "No way am I going to invite that witch, she thinks she's too smart." My mother-in-law tried to stop her in the middle of the conversation and whispered to her, "They're here with us." But the princess was too busy complaining. She said, "If she meets my in-laws, she's going to eclipse me. I want to look the prettiest on my wedding day." Besides, you know how she always talks about different things, jobs, careers, investments, and those things, blah, 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 to get everyone's attention. I don't want that at my wedding. Everyone's focus should be on me. If she's around, she'd make me look stupid. So no, she's not allowed at my wedding. Then she hung up. I screamed back, "Do I make you sound stupid? Because you are stupid." And I ran out of the house. When my husband got up to leave, my in-laws asked him to calm me down and that they would talk to my sister-in-law to make her apologize. Apologize my ass. Meanwhile, my sister-in-law texted me saying I should remove our portraits from the hallway and move out of the house after supervising the preparations tomorrow. She said her fiancé would arrive at the venue with his family at 10 a.m. So get out before that, but make sure to leave my parents there before the wedding planners are left alone. I'll stay at my friend's house after the bachelorette party. I'll go directly to the salon from here and arrive at the venue as a bride. Of course, Your Highness, I'm going to plan a perfect wedding for you. When we got home, it was late afternoon. I called the locksmith and changed the house locks. Later that night, my husband called my father-in-law and told him we wouldn't allow the wedding at our house, so they better find another place. He tried to call my sister-in-law, but she was busy getting drunk at her bachelorette party. My father-in-law called back in panic, asking what he should do. My husband suggested that if he wanted to save his reputation, he should call his guests and cancel the invitation, giving any suitable reason, because there was no way the wedding was going to take place at this scheduled date and location. The I won night was exciting just imagining the expressions on my sister-in-law's face when the truth came to light. Around 6 a.m. on the day the wedding was supposed to begin with dinner, my doorbell rang. It was the wedding designer. He was here to start the wedding preparations. I told him this was my house and there would be no wedding here. He was confused and said my sister-in-law and her fiancé had made the reservation for that day. I told him to call them because my house was no longer available. An hour later, my sister-in-law's fiancé came knocking at my door. I answered and he asked if my sister-in-law was home because she wasn't answering the phone. I told him no, she wasn't here because this isn't her house. He said maybe there was some confusion here. I'm her fiancé and today we have a wedding. At this house. I suppose you're her sister-in-law. I saw your photos in the hallway the other day. I smiled and said, "You're right, I'm her sister-in-law. But there's more truth I'm going to tell you. Let's start with the most basic. This is my house and I live here. My sister-in-law and my in-laws live on the other side of town in an apartment. By the way, congratulations on your wedding, but it's no longer going to be here because I changed my mind." I don't know what happened after that. Around 9 a.m., this princess came banging on my door. I didn't answer. She called my husband asking what was happening, that I had kicked out the wedding designer. He said our house wasn't available and she should find another place for the wedding. She screamed and banged on my door asking us to open it. I opened the window and screamed, "If you bang on my door again, you might end up in jail on your wedding day if there is one." She insulted us and called us names for ruining her life. She left after the neighbors threatened to call the police. I blocked her number, but she bombarded my husband's phone with voice messages, calling him names for not defending his sister. I asked him if he was upset. He said he was upset, but she had brought it on herself. She can't assume everything will be served to her on a silver platter. She was ungrateful and took us for granted. She told her fiancé this was her house and planned the wedding here without even asking permission. On top of that, she excludes us from the wedding and calls me a witch. What does she expect to receive in return? My in-laws haven't taken it well. They blame me for tarnishing their reputation. This makes me question their value system because they were clearly okay with their daughter excluding us from the wedding despite it being held at my property. As for her wedding, it was canceled that day. My sister-in-law and my in-laws went to see them to ask them to wait a week so they could arrange another venue. I heard that her fiancé called them liars in front of everyone and said he was canceling the wedding and would have to reconsider the relationship. God knows what will happen now. I'm glad to be out of this drama. I have a life to live and a career to excel in. God bless her and her lies. Update 3. Well, it's been a couple of days since the date that would have been my sister-in-law's wedding at my house, and as you already know, it didn't take place here, although it didn't take place anywhere else either because at the end of the day, the groom decided to cancel everything after seeing his ex-fiancé's lies. I don't blame him. We're talking about a person who can go so far with lies, so we could expect more lies in the future, if not now. Anyway, what's important is everyone's reaction after all the plans went to trash, starting with my sister-in-law, who has been crying since all this happened. Obviously, she blames me for everything, which is ridiculous because I wasn't the one who lied to half the world. Her ex stopped by the house the other day and told me this while apologizing for everything. Although I told him no, he had nothing to worry about because he had nothing to do with this. I even apologized to him since I should have told him about this before. Although, to be honest, it's not like we had a relationship or had much contact. Before, I didn't even have his phone number or know his name to look him up on social media, but I felt bad for him and apologized. As for my in-laws, they keep calling my husband to badmouth me, although also him, telling him he should have done something and not just let himself be dominated by me. He's thinking of blocking them if this continues, and he no longer answers their calls because he's fed up with them. But that's something between him and his parents, so I'm not going to get involved in that. Update 4. A week has passed since my last update, and I hoped the previous one would be the last because I don't have more time to waste on their nonsense. I had already done too much for her, but she had to show up at home and cause a scene. It was Saturday morning, and I was at home having breakfast when she knocked on the door. I could tell it was her because the knocking came accompanied by hysterical screaming. She seemed possessed by how she was shrieking. It was like in those horror movies. She wanted to hit me, according to what she said, because I had ruined her wedding and her relationship by being selfish and a witch. My husband wasn't home because he went to play tennis with his friend. She was screaming at the top of her lungs and banging on the door while I drank my coffee. A neighbor heard everything and called the police. He also came to my door to make sure I was okay, and told my sister-in-law that the police were on their way. She finally left, but the funny thing about it is that she did it running like she was a thief or something because she doesn't have a car and had arrived here by Uber, so she didn't have time to order another one before the police arrived. Then I opened up and talked to my neighbor. When I finished with him, the police arrived and I explained what happened. How she threatened to hit me, and my neighbor is a witness, plus the cameras. The police went to my in-laws' house to look for her. Now it's late, and my in-laws have called my husband to tell him what I did and scream some more, but my husband hung up and blocked them. I know many will feel disappointed because we don't know what happened to my sister-in-law since my in-laws were the only ones capable of telling us, but we both feel we've had enough of that family. Whether she ends up in jail or not, we don't know. But at least we're done with that family.